Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another Popcross Studios reaction. And after my reaction to their video making like the Minecraft movie mobs into fantasy monsters, I saw another of their videos that really caught my eye in my suggestion feeds. And it is, what if Disney princesses were kaiju? Okay. I mean, it's always been... A lot of people, myself included, always compare Disney to, like, this monolithic monster that just consumes and puts... and stuff like that when it comes to everything. But turning the Disney princesses into monsters... I mean, I'm fascinated, honestly, is the right word to use. Like, the thumbnail had, got Rapunzel from Tangled in the thumbnail, and then I couldn't tell what the kaiju was. I just saw a lot of, like, spaghetti or something coming out of the other side. It was a little too small for me to see in detail. But I mean, honestly, like, again, from the videos that I saw in a long time ago where they were, where he was like turning the amazing digital circus characters into SCPs, to the one where he was redesigning the Minecraft movie monsters. He is a really good artist, and I'm really actually looking forward to seeing what kind of monstrous freaks he can turn these Disney princesses into. Just looking at the chapters here, so we got Rapunzel, Elsa, and Ariel. Okay, we got a bit of a spread. So, I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else to say on the topic, because I really want to get into this video. So, yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video, link to my Let's Play of the Day. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because my main goal for this year is to hopefully hit 5,000 subscribers. And at the rate I'm currently going, I think it's totally doable. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
I've been on a real kick of redoing my old art lately, whether it was my Fantastic Four Dragons video from a month ago, or my last video where I took Pokemon sprites that I made back in high school and rendered them out in my updated art style and added them to my series The Trismegistus Academy. But one video that I always knew I was going to go back to eventually was my Disney Princesses as Kaiju video from the very early days of this channel, before I did lore or stories or anything like that. As simple as those designs were, I did think they were pretty cool, and I've always figured they would look good in my modern art style. So, let's finally give those drawings an update,
I didn't know there was an old one.
Let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. I've been so busy hunting down demons in other dimensions that I don't spend much time dealing with the kaiju in my own world lately. Luckily, there are plenty of epic kaiju slayers back home doing the good work just as well as I could, sometimes even better. Though, there are still issues now and then. My buddy Nia back home was telling me about how a famously secure facility storing a pretty dangerous kaiju had a breakout recently. For the first time in its life, the Raptangzel had finally gotten into a city to wreak havoc. See, this kaiju was found when it was still a newborn by a researcher called Dr. Gothel. Even as a fresh little one, it showed that it was pretty dangerous, having control over the hair that came out of its head that let it use its long locks like extra limbs. Dr. Gothel got this thing caged up and planned to kill it, but before doing that, she started studying it and realized that its hair had medicinal healing properties. It could cause a massive gash in someone's body to close up within a few seconds of applying medicine made from it. They even tested it on cancer patients and found it healed mild cases of skin and lung cancer within a few weeks of treatment with it. It was like a miracle cure. The problem was those healing properties would fade within a day of the hair being cut off of the kaiju, so if Doc Gothel wanted to use it to treat people long term, she had to keep Raptangzel alive, even as it grew at a rapid rate. She managed to get it transported to a high mountaintop lab in Germany, where she got people to soup up the place and make it into a fortress to contain Raptangzel.
Okay, already I'm really liking this, because, like... Well, I mean, of course, you know, you make it pink because, you know, you have to. But also, like, with something like that, you, again, like, okay, I like the look of, you know, like, the limbs where it's like, oh, it's the actual, almost the bone, but there's, like, no meat, you know, between them. looking at that makes me wonder, how would that actually work in a real creature, though? Would it be like, because like our muscles and stuff like that, they work, like, all of our muscles are only compression based. Like, whenever you move your hand this way or that way, it's because you have muscles on this side pulling your hand that way, and your muscles pulling your hand that way on the other side. So, for this to work, you'd potentially need, like, all of the muscles to be focused in just the two bone, arm supports, whatever you want to call them, and just have them be funneled through there as opposed to using the space in between them. But also, I'd have to wonder, if you had, like, a creature whose hair caused such, like, medicinal properties, like, you'd think, given that it was growing and getting bigger, I could see two ways of going about this. Either one, you keep it sedated at all times. Granted, I'm looking at the destruction it's causing in the picture here, and it's literally picking up buildings with its hair. So you'd need a lot of meds to keep that asleep. Alternatively, you could have gotten around this just by showing the creature kindness. Like, maybe you could have, like, kept the monster around, and throughout its entire life just basically trained it. Like, I was going to say domestication at first, but that doesn't really work because domestication requires, a long period of time over an entire species. But, I mean, you could, like, if you treated it well, you could try to train it. I mean, I say that, but at the same time, it could possibly be something that couldn't really have the temperament to be treated. Or trained, I should say. Because honestly, super healing hair that can even cure, like, some forms of cancer? Oh god, I mean, that's a gold mine waiting to happen.
And basically farm the kaiju's hair. Worked pretty well for a few years, but unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, an eco-terrorist who just goes by the fake name Ryder busted into the place, disabled security protocols, and let the kaiju go. He'd busted animals loose from dozens of zoos across the world before, and look, I'm not super pro zoos caging up wild animals for their whole lives, but busting out dangerous kaiju is another story.
I will say on the whole thing with zoos, like, granted, I'd imagine there still are, some zoos out there in the world that aren't the best for the animals in there. But at the same time, modern zoos are so much better than they were in the past. And from the research I've done, you can't judge how well an animal is doing by how they look. Because, like, different animals, different species, they have different stress responses per species. Like the one I saw, somebody online complaining about was, why don't they, the monkeys are suffering, they're not smiling. And it's like, monkeys don't work like that. They don't show their teeth as, as like a show of pleasure or fun like humans do. They're a fundamentally different species with, while they are our closest, relatives on the planet, they're still a very different creature.
Was the last time he'd do that, though, because the guy was squashed in the thing's escape anyway, and it went on a rampage in the nearest city.
Yeah, that sounds about
Dr. Gothel
right.
had 2 pro-tier kaiju slayers on call, thankfully. These guys would call themselves the Stabbington Brothers, and they were able to take the thing down without killing it, but the fight went on long enough for a lot of collateral damage to be done. People are debating now if they can guarantee future containment on this thing, or if they'd just give it the axe for good. Normally I'd say that route is a good call, but keeping this thing's healing hair around is a pretty big argument for letting it go on breathing.
Actually, also thinking about it, they said, again, the whole thing in universe is that the hair loses its healing abilities, like, within a day of harvesting, of it being cut. Does that mean that for whatever purpose you're going to use the hair from, it has to be cut and processed into whatever medication it needs to be in, and delivered within 24 hours to the person that's getting it? Or are they literally just cutting off the hair and having people eat it? Because honestly, like, thinking about it, even if it was like a panacea for virtually everything, I don't think I'd want to eat hair.
Personally, I'd just let Doc make the call. From what I've heard, it seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders. Some folks may disagree, but I'd say when it comes to this kaiju, Gothel knows best. A little bit light on the lore this episode, and that's honestly because along with my Illustrator React series, the pop culture crossover kind of episodes that I'm working in now that aren't a part of my ongoing series, like this and the Fantastic Four Dragons video, I'm kind of using these episodes as a way to chill out the writing part of my brain, focusing more on just the art, because with my ongoing series that I have going with Starseed Psyche, Fear of the Demon Hunters, Trismegistus Academy, those take a lot of creative writing focus. So with the episodes that aren't a part of that, it's nice to just chill out that part of my brain, focus on topics where I already know the characters pretty well and I don't have to do any research, like Marvel stuff, Disney princesses, and again, experimenting more with the art specifically. And that's what I knew I was going to have fun doing with this episode. And one thing that I wanted to do more of is experimenting with destruction. I started doing that around a year ago when I did my Pokemon Godzilla Monsters episodes. I started doing a little bit of active destruction happening in the pieces, and as I've gotten more and more comfortable doing buildings, I wanted to do more of that in this episode. And funny enough, as much as I knew I wanted to have Rapunzel Kaiju holding up the building above her with her hair, and I really like the glass kind of starting to fall down around her and the way the building looks like it's crumbling in because her hair is really gripping it. I think I actually like a little bit more the part of her hair that's wrapping around the building behind her that she's got her claw on.
I only just noticed that the central part of her face looks like a face. So I wonder if that's simply because, oh, this was a Disney princess at one point, and, you know, you're leaving that little bit in as, you know, just, haha, here's an Easter egg. Or you have to kind of wonder, I wonder if that's some form of, like, convergent evolution or something there. Because thinking about it, I'm forgetting the name now, but there was another series that I watched a while ago, and, oh God, I can't remember the channel's name, and I wish I'd actually done reactions to it. But it was a series kind of like done it from an in-universe perspective about like, oh, scientifically possible like cryptids, like, oh, like sirens and mermaids and zombies and vampires and werewolves, you know, that sort of stuff. Where like, oh, vampires were like from a virus, where like werewolves were from like a virus or something like that. Mermaids were actually like distant human relatives that took to the sea, while sirens were actually like a completely different species that had done convergent evolution to have a human-like face, or growths in the shape of a human-like face on the front of their head to like lure their prey into the water or something like that. It was really weird, really cool. I've got to find that channel again. It was really good.
It almost looks like she's going to use the hair to pull it and use her claw to push it and just tear that building down. And I don't know, something about that just feels really cool. I like that little addition. And it does feel so nice that I am getting more comfortable doing buildings, although one thing that I will note is I feel like if I really want to make these pieces feel like they're happening a bit more in a real city, I'll need to start getting a little bit more comfortable with adding some stuff on the ground, like lampposts or destroyed cars, or besides just running rubble or something like that. I didn't get into any of that in this episode, but I did do some more cool experimenting with active destruction happening in these pieces. I think this one might be my favorite, but it's a toss-up. I'm really happy with how all three drawings turned out in this episode, and I'm only doing 3. Pour one out in the comments for Yzma, who I did in the original episode, but I'm not doing her this time. If I did, I probably would have gotten Ares in as a cameo, because, you know, anyone that's watched Mytholethal knows he's basically just Kronk. Anyway, let's take a look at the finished version of Rapunzel, shall we?
Oh yeah, I didn't know. I only just noticed that the fact that the old design had 2 eyes while the new one had 4. Real? Oh my god! How her limbs and tail, they're based off of chameleons. Like her claws and stuff, like they're all like monsterfied, but oh my god. I only just realized that after looking at the tails and seeing it curl, like, oh my god. I was like, have I said before that he's a really good artist?
That whole Reptangel issue actually reminded me of another breakout from a Norwegian kaiju containment site. This was a privately built site made by this super rich heiress named Anna Agnersdottir. Her sister Elsa had been killed when this ice-spewing kaiju called Friezella stomped through their hometown.
Friezella?
Anna was
Okay.
loaded with cash, having inherited her family's entire fortune since her parents were out of the picture too, but instead of using that to hire some top-tier kaiju slayers to kill the thing, she built this huge kaiju containment site to use as a prison for the thing. Then she hired some kaiju slayers, but just got them to lure the thing in there. She trapped it in there and just kept it locked up. She probably could have taken it out, but she kept it in there alive and would apparently pace around that place staring at the thing. Some other slayers went and told her they could finish the thing off for her, but she wouldn't let them. I guess in her grief, she became a weird recluse, and some sort of reverse Stockholm syndrome type thing happened where she started feeling bad for the kaiju. She must have bonded with it enough to think it should be free again, because eventually she just let it run free. The kaiju.
I paused at a very bad time, didn't I? Wait.
No.
Okay, wait, just gonna go back. Let it go free. I mean, granted, from everything I've seen, you know, these episodes and these narrations are full of these sort of things. But honestly, if I was in the same room as you right now, I would smack you.
Because eventually she just let it run free. The
Right.
No. She blatant let it go. What, Dr. McGregor, I didn't hear you come in. What was that? I know that you don't know what you did there, but I can't just let you tee that up and not pay it off. She let it go. Isn't that what I said? No, but don't worry about it. That just would have driven me crazy if I didn't correct you on it. I'm leaving. Just keep going.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know you did that as part of the plot. I'm still giving you a smack for it.
All right, then. Yeah, she let it go. As you might expect, the thing just went right back onto a rampage, freezing up the nearest city with its ice breath. Luckily, there was a slayer in the region who had made a real connection with a big, friendly reindeer-like kaiju. Actually kind of similar looking to one my buddies and I slayed recently in another dimension, but there's no relation.
Okay.
Together, this hunter and his big elk-looking thing were able to scare off Friezella, but she's a pretty tough one. Still hasn't been taken out for good, and still finds her way into Norwegian cities now and then to wreak havoc. The government's got a warning system in place, at least, for when it's approaching certain regions, so the people living there can get to safety bunkers or evacuate in time. Nowadays, there are minimal casualties and destruction, because they're pretty prepared at this point for any ice kaiju attacks. Plus, you could say that the people who live there, the cold never bothered them anyway, right? I mean, they are used to cold temperatures up there, but there's a difference between dealing with cold weather and having a kaiju freeze up your... never mind. Just ignore me. I'm leaving again.
This is what you get when you have friends that are from multiple dimensions. They have like running jokes and in jokes that you just don't get in the slightest. I would have loved to have lived in a dimension where Frozen never took off. Oh God, I'm so happy the sequel didn't gain quite as big of a pop culture footprint. Because I don't think I could have taken another Let It Go song. Ugh.
Now with this Elsa one, it was the one I was most excited to do because, in case you haven't noticed from the stuff I draw a lot, I really like drawing dinosaur dragon kinds of creatures and any kind of icy sort of creature. And we're actually going to be getting a lot more of that in the next Fear of the Demon Hunters episode. But I was super stoked to do this drawing, and the one thing I knew I wanted to do for it most was have the Elsa kaiju shooting some kind of ice beam that was both destroying a part of a building, but also the parts that weren't getting blasted away are getting coated over in even more ice. And another thing that's been really fun as I've been experimenting more with my art lately, both inspired by stuff I've been covering in Illustrator Reacts and just playing around with things that cross my mind, is this element of things in a drawing that I don't ink. People who watched the Fantastic Four Dragons episode know I did a whole dragon in that where I didn't ink him. I've been doing a few drawings lately where I experiment with not inking the creature, or at least not inking the creature first, adding in some inks after the fact to make them stand out more. But I've been going for a little bit more of a painterly feel, or a little bit more of a concept art sort of look. I don't know exactly what to call it or how to describe it when I don't do the inks for it, but there have been some of those drawings that I really like and some of them where I don't love it as much, and I've noticed the ones where I like it the most is when the main focal point of the drawing, like the main creature or character, I still go ahead and I ink that and use my usual rendering process for it, and then the secondary elements of the scene, I don't do that. So, for instance, in a recent Trismegistus Academy episode, I have Monstrosity punching a funny enough, an icy Tyrannosaurus Gleam kind of creature. And I ink her to make sure she stands out nicely from the creature behind her that she's punching, but then for the creature she's punching, I didn't ink it, and I think that blended together really nicely. And for this one specifically, I inked the creature, and then the buildings I did without inks. And in the final version, I don't think it's even really that noticeable that I'm doing different, because it's the only difference is that one has inks and one doesn't. My rendering style is still essentially the same. But I also think it works really nicely for ice, not having the inks on the outside. Like, I like the ice in the foreground as it's getting, like, blown apart a little bit, and there's the light of the beam shining on it, making it glow. And I like the way this foreground ice looks a little bit better than the ice coming off the Elsa Kaiju. I almost wish I hadn't inked that part of her. Again,
honestly, I'm looking at this, and I said, how many times I've said, he's a good artist, and I really like when I draw, when I do, because I haven't drawn a lot in a long time, I'm always, I guess, very mechanical in nature. I like drawing machines more than I like drawing people, or organic things in general. But I love the way he looks at this. I love the way he does this, where like a lot of the actual detail in his drawings isn't actually drawn on, so to speak. It's very much like all the detail you get is from like the highlights and the shadows you get on the arms, on the scales, on the roughness of it, on like the craggles and cracks of stuff and stuff like that. It really, again, I said before, I'd love a comic book in this art style. But it really does, it does pop with, the contrast between, the lights and the darks on the creatures and the people themselves. It's very eye-catching.
Again, with this piece, my only complaint about it is that the ground looks kind of bare. Maybe adding even just one or two lampposts or one car that she's stepping on, something like that, could have elevated it a little bit more. But overall, still very happy with this one, because the main thing that I wanted to look cool looks really cool, which is Elsa as a kaiju shooting a beam of ice and freezing up and shattering a building. So let's take a look at the finished result.
Also, I'd have to zoom in again and look at it closer, but unlike with Rapunzel, is it just me, or did he give Kaiju Elsa eyelashes? It definitely is an improvement.
Neo was also telling me that one of the most notorious ocean kaiju got knocked down a peg recently by one real tough hunter that goes by Ursula the Sea Slayer. She's a former pirate outlaw that used to hunt sharks for their fins illegally, but when kaiju attacked, she started hunting them with her crew. She realized she could make way bigger bucks by being contracted to hunt down different sea-based kaiju. Not the nicest lady, but she is great at what she does.
Honestly, I'm surprised that, Ariel, you gave the kaiju version of Ariel legs. Now, actually thinking about it, given what happens in the movie, maybe the ability to, grow legs or something like that, to move on land, sort of like that, what was that, there was one of the newer Godzilla movies, the ones that were made in Japan. There was one where, Godzilla was metamorphosizing as it came out into dry land to, actually have legs and stuff like that. I can believe that. I find it weird that, you know, she'd start off with legs, though.
Recently, she went after her biggest game yet. There's this set of 7 sea kaiju that all look sort of similar, like they're siblings or something. And the worst of them is called Mermaw. She's famous for lulling passing cruise ships into a hypnotic state with her voice. I wouldn't exactly call the noise she makes singing, but she can let out this call that makes anyone who hears it dizzy and loopy and exhausted. She'll do that just before smashing up a boat or ship or whatever's in her territory. And her territory is right near a pretty important trade route. So, she's been a real pain. Slayers have tried going after her before with earmuffs and stuff, but limiting what you can hear can really mess up your hunting skills. Ursula went on after the thing anyway, with her ears blocked and her entire crew's ears blocked, and she managed to get an explosive right down the kaiju's throat before it could smash up her ship with its claws. She didn't kill it, and the thing fled before any more damage could be done, but the next time anyone saw Mermaw, it wasn't doing none of its singing. Seems like she messed up its vocal cords pretty good, and now it'll be a lot easier to slay. She may have been real shady before becoming a slayer, but it seems like Ursula is gonna take this kaiju down for the count soon, and avenge all the lives that Mermaw has taken. Sad that so many people died before she got to it. You know, shame thinking about all those poor, unfortunate souls.
Smack! Smack again!
Yeah? Oh, what's that, Doc? Oh, nothing. Now I'm just here to tell you that Pan's got your panini all done. Oh, sick. Let's go. Now with this aerial kaiju, originally I was just thinking, this will be the kind of easy one environment-wise. I'm just going to do one of my classic shots of a creature leaping up out of the water. Not going to have the character in a city because it's a water-based creature. And then I was like, okay, but it would be kind of cool to have this creature smashing up something like a boat or a cruise ship. And
okay, this one I really like. Because with this one, with the old design, like, it looks almost, I mean, granted, it might just be the perspective here, but it very much does look almost more reptilian than anything else. But given that this is an ocean-based kaiju, like, giving the head more of a shark-like shape and profile, like, that's really cool. I can't think of very many kaiju that, like, have a head like a shark.
And at first I was umming and ahhing. I was like, do I want to take the time to do that? And as I was getting closer to the drawing, I just went, yes, I absolutely want to try this. The idea kept stirring around in my head and I couldn't let go of it. And I thought it would be a lot of fun to add a different kind of destruction and draw something that I haven't really drawn. Plus it gave me another excuse to experiment with that idea of the main creature focus of the drawing is inked and rendered out in my usual style, and then another aspect of it isn't. So
interesting. I'm okay. Actually, looking at it more, her mouth structure is really interesting in this too, because obviously, like, the general shape of the head looks very, you know, Great White-esque, and then you have what I suppose is going to be these red, like, almost armor, hair, whatever you want to call them at the back, and you have the gills on the neck and stuff like that. But inside the mouth, it almost looks more akin to like one of those basking sharks or like the whale sharks, you know, the ones that just like slowly swim with their mouth open to eat like krill and plankton and stuff like that. Really, but the fact that it also has teeth kind of suggests to me that, you know, thinking that this is a real animal, that like this possibly like eats just anything, because, you know, kaiju are big animals. So maybe when, like, food is low, it'll just sort of filter feed. But then if it finds something big that it can attack, then it will attack and feed on it that way, because, hey, you know, food is food. Really interesting.
With the boat, I didn't ink it, and in fact, I kind of just started with it, rendering it out, and I am quite happy with how it looks. I think I could have added a little bit more detail. Looks like a bit smaller of a cruise ship than I wanted. I was actually referencing a Disney cruise ship, and thought about adding the Mickey Mouse pool that they had, but I was like, that's, you know, wouldn't really make that much sense lore-wise. With the destruction, I've been really liking adding in
Well, I mean, you could have had it done where it wasn't Mickey Mouse shaped. You just had 3 pools really close together, like one big one and then the 2 smaller ones by the corners. Or maybe like, you know, pool and then 2 hot tubs.
The brush that I often use to add a little bit of grain to my creatures and characters to give them a bit more detail, I ramped up the opacity of it and started using it to help sell the splashes of water. This isn't the first time I've done that. I forget when I first tried that, but I think it really helped here. Just add a little bit more chaos to the scene. I do kind of wish that I'd had the boat getting a little bit more smashed up. Originally, I had thought maybe even having her come up between the boat and kind of tearing it in half, splitting it in half Titanic style. But I still had lots of fun with this. I'm very happy with how it came out. Again, probably could have added a little bit more destruction, but I do like the chaos of this.
I mean, granted, from my limited knowledge of, naval warfare and the damage that, ocean-going ships can take, the ship being at this steep of an angle, very much screams to me, oh, hey, the boat's broken in half. Because, boats are designed to have their entire weights supported by the water therein. In fact, if you want to go, modern warfare, I think, most torpedoes nowadays, that are launched from submarines, they're not designed to actually hit the ship. They're actually designed that when you target them, they'll explode underneath the middle of the ship, creating a big air bubble, and then the cavitations and the instability will cause basically the ship to break in the middle, essentially.
And I like the little person that I added getting flung up out of the boat. It's pretty low detail, but, he had to be pretty low detail because he'd have to be pretty small to help show the scale.
Yeah, I really don't think it'd be worth your time to zoom in really small and give that tiny little person wherever they are, because I've lost track of where. Oh, right there. Yeah, I don't think it's worth to give him, detail, because I actually for a while there thinking about it, I saw a number of YouTube shorts where you had artists adding in I think it was little 5-pixel Among Us's into their drawings at really tiny scales, so that when you zoomed it back out to see the picture full on, you just couldn't see the Among Us at all.
And I feel bad that guy's wife and kids are gonna miss him. He'd just gotten 2 new dogs that he was very excited about, and no, I'm kidding. Let's say this guy was a serial killer who got away with his crimes and escaped onto a cruise ship. And now he's getting destroyed by a kaiju. I also didn't plan to add anything in the background, but I was feeling like the background was a bit bare. Thought of doing one of my generic, mountainous kind of backgrounds, but I was like, these are kaiju, we've been going with buildings. It's far enough in the background that I could do some pretty simple silhouette buildings, so I just went with a layer of that. I probably could have made the windows a little bit smaller to help make the buildings feel bigger, but again, it's a pretty background element, and overall I'm very happy with this piece. It is also funny when I go back to doing drawings that are this aspect ratio. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of my drawings lately have been a little bit narrower. They've been 6x9, and that's because for the books that I'm printing, I'm going with 6x9-inch books. So if I draw them that way, I don't have to crop them at all. With these ones, I wasn't making them specifically for a book, so I went back to I forget the exact dimensions, but the dimensions that I use for posters on my Teespring store.
Which, okay, thinking about it, how would you probably get under fair use or parody or something like that? But I highly doubt, the Disney would allow you, even under something like this, to use their intellectual properties as hey, we're making Disney princesses into monsters. Their lawyers would descend upon you in a moment if you tried selling these officially.
Which, by the way, I won't do a mid-video ad, but these will all be up as posters on my Teespring store if you want them. But yeah, I think
that's really
this
sad
one
given the first video I watched.
Be my favorite of the episode. This one or Rapunzel. I don't know. I really like how all of these turned out, and it's been lots of fun experimenting with lots of different things lately, and one of the main things inspiring me to do that has been bringing back my Illustrator React series. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend the latest 3 episodes I made, because they've given me personally tons of good inspiration for things to try out in my art. But anyway, this drawing's coming down to the end, so let's take a look at how it turned out, shall we?
Again, looks really good. Again, I love the shark head. You don't see very many kaiju with shark heads. Yeah, that is a massive improvement. Again, this looks like a kaiju. That looks more like an alien from Ben 10.
If you enjoyed this, like I said, highly recommend checking out the Illustrator React series. Or if you haven't been to Popcross Studios in a while, I have started doing some more of the classic format kinds of episodes now and then. Like I said, there was the Fantastic Four Dragons video. My Zodiac Signs as Angels and Demons video is technically part of my ongoing series, Fear of the Demon Hunters, but it also works as a standalone episode. Got a Benny Sharp banter episode for the latest community redraw that was particularly funny. But yeah, go poking around. Might be some new stuff that you enjoy. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave people with today is paraphrasing a quote I heard this week by Alex Hormozy, who said that you have a 100% chance of bothering somebody on Earth by just existing. By just being yourself, someone out there would be bothered by it. So you might as well be the person you want to be and live the way you want, because there is no chance that you're going to please everyone, nor should you be trying to. I hope that's helpful or inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.
Honestly, again, I want to, looking at this, I want to see more Disney princesses as a kaiju. I really like just the absurdity of that, design challenge. It's so funny. Like, you have, quite literally, princesses meant to be all frilly and dainty, and, also being, Disney's main cash grab for, a good portion of its history, turning them into these giant destructive monsters. And I can't help but think, that you couldn't, like, I'm wondering if you couldn't read a certain level of undertone going into that if you really wanted to. Ah, God, yeah. That was wonderful. I definitely need to watch more of his stuff, but I'll wait until I get this and the Minecraft episode uploaded, just to see how people react to them and see how well they do. Because, I mean, honestly, if people like because if people really like my reaction to this, I will definitely continue. But yeah, that'll definitely be it for now. So yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video linked to my Let's Play of the day. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.